All right, well, I'd like to welcome everyone to this session. We're here to launch a global report on protected area finance capacity needs. I'm Charles Besancon, and I'm the chair of the Protected Area Finance Working Group. I'm also the owner of Global Park Solutions, a consulting company based out of the USA. And what we're going to do today is I'm going to give a presentation, and then we have a group of panelists, and I'll ask them to then come forward and we'll have some questions. I want to keep this very informal. This is a discussion. So we want to have a discussion between the audience and the panelists about how can we use this information that has been collected in this report So if you can, I can. So I'd like to take the opportunity here to note my co-authors on this work, Tyler Marcus, Johnny Bohurquez, and David Myers. And this is David Myers here. And okay, I have to keep clicking. All right, so the background to this is that we know that species are under imminent threat of extinction. We know that protected areas are extremely effective at preventing that, and they're widely recognized as the cornerstone of conservation policy. Protected areas and OECMs are constrained by a lack of sufficient and/or reliable financial resources. This is, I'd say, widely known in our world. And just some notable papers that have been written. So this paper that appeared in Nature noted that protected areas lack capacity for even basic financial accounting. Many protected areas do, let alone expertise to evaluate and implement effective and innovative sources of finance. And one of the more notable papers in the past, written by Balmford et al., found that most protected areas considered their funding status to be insufficient for successful implementation. No surprises there. I think we all know that. So the CFA Protected Areas Finance Working Group, of which I'm the chair of, the idea is to advance global thinking and planning for sustainable financing of protected area systems. And we're launching some work to determine what is the future of the working group and what sort of topics that should it address. And as a way to get at that, we launched a global survey. So this survey was of practitioners all around the world. And we did this in the beginning of 2019, and we ended the survey in the middle of 2019. And then COVID happened, so there were some delays in actually getting this all out. So we had a survey. It was available in Spanish, French, and English. I sent it out through numerous networks, most of them associated with IUCN, World Commission on Protected Areas, through the regional vice chairs of WCPA, and asked them to then forward it out through their networks. And I also worked through some organizations, and it was sent out internally through different NGOs around the world. We got 130 valid responses. You can see most of those were in English. However, the English responses we got came from all around the world. It wasn't just in North America. 17 in Spanish and 8 in French. There were many French speakers who actually submitted this in English, for example. So this shows where the respondents live. So North America, 23%, Europe, 17%, and so on and so forth. The Indian Ocean and Middle East had very low response rates, just two or three per region. So we really have to look at the data associated with that with a grain of salt. It's not necessarily predictive of anything related to those regions. Here's a map showing that same data. So where respondents live, and we asked them where they work. And we asked them to list 3 different places in the world where they work. So this is a weighted diagram of the world, a weighted map showing where people work. Organizational affiliation of respondents. So NGOs and government were most of those respondents, followed by many other different organizations, many other kinds of affiliations. We asked them how many years they're working in nature conservation. So the people that responded to this survey had an interest in protected area finance. So that's reflected, I think, here. So, you know, people with 15 or more years of experience in nature conservation, they're highly experienced people. We're 57% of the sample. Years working in protected area finance. So not many people are working in that. It's relatively new. So 49% had only worked 0 to 5 years. So not a lot of capacity there, you can see already. Although there is this jump, this spike in the 15+ years over here on this end. So there were some people that had quite a bit of experience. We asked a simple question: do you have enough money for the protected areas where you work? So, I mean, not surprising. Most people would like to have more money or don't think they have enough financial resources. So the vast majority said no. This survey was not about the funding gap. We weren't asking them, how big is your funding gap? This is about finance capacity, the capacity to interact with financial resources, to apply for them, to spend them, etc. So but we did just have an interest in this. So there was only one question on that. But when we break that down by region, it's kind of interesting. So Europeans, you know, the greatest number of people that thought they had adequate funding were from Europe, followed by the Caribbean, Asia, Latin America, and Africa. All of the respondents from North America and the Pacific answered this to say it was inadequate. You know, there was nobody said that they had enough funding. Everyone said they did not have enough. So I don't know what's happening here in Europe. We also asked respondents, if you had to pick one, you had to pick one or the other. Would you rather reduce pressures in your protected areas or increase funding? Here's the response that we got. So in North America, it was very much about increasing funding. The red is reducing pressures. So people that working in Africa would rather reduce pressures actually than increase their funding. We asked people about the kind of skills that would be needed. So this shows the global, this is the global figures right here. So what kind of skills do you need that would improve your financial performance in your protected area? And so budget planning came out the highest. We asked them to rate these on a scale of 1 to 4. Management plan development is number 2, proposal and grant writing, establishing public and private partnerships, business and finance plan development, etc. So this is really getting at now the kind of skills that people are interested in. And then when you break this down by region, which is I think the real value of this, and you look at each skill, and this only shows the top 2 kind of vote getters for each region. So the 2 marks was the top choice. The 1 mark is second choice. And there was a tie among these 4, which is why you have 4 that are in second place, if that makes sense. So this gives you a general overview of what the skills are needed globally. This may be the most important figure in this whole presentation, I think. It's just the top 2 skills that were wanted within different regions. So accessing international donor financing came out first with Africa, Latin America, and Asia. It didn't even rate for most of the other regions except for the Caribbean, where it's number 2. Management plan development also came out kind of significant, as well as annual budget planning. So these are skills that people would like to have, and it's broken down by region. We also asked them how would they like their training or capacity development delivered to them. Do they want best practice guidelines? Do they want a toolkit of mechanisms? Do they want workshops, webinars, online training programs? This was all done pre-COVID. We collected this data. So at the time we did this, a lot of this kind of work was done in person. Consultants would go and deliver workshops. Some of it was available online at that time, but of course, since then, everything has pretty much moved to online training. So I expect we'd get a different set of results if we were to re-ask this question now, maybe. So I'm almost done here. These survey results, I think they provide a starting point to start to align different activities, global, regional, and national efforts to build this finance capacity among staff and practitioners. And this I think also presents an opportunity to develop some partnerships. And together we can raise some global standards on PA finance. And the suggestion in the last bullet is, do we need some sort of an agenda on protected area finance global capacity building? And by agenda, I mean, something where there's maybe a large initiative, there's some fundraising around it. We've got partnerships. It sort of envelops these first 2 bullet points. I don't have the answer to these. I have a group of panelists I'm going to invite to come forward, and we're going to discuss some of the bullet points up here. And I invite anyone in the audience as well, any questions you might have. So I really want to just have this in kind of an open discussion around these points. We have this report, we have some data, we know there's a great need. Where do we go from here? Okay, so let me let me put the right slide up here. Oh, let me also say that the report is now available online. This has happened in the last 45 minutes. While Kumar has been doing everything else, he's also putting this up online, so it's now available online. So this is the launch event. Yes, we're launched. Woohoo! Okay. So I'm going to go back to the slide that shows the panelists and invite them. Great. So I would like to invite Madhu Rao. Madhu is a senior advisor with the Wildlife Conservation Society. She's the director of Wildlife Conservation Society in Singapore, and she's a candidate for the IUCN World Commission on Protected Areas chair. So Madhu, please come forward. Thank you. And now I'd like to introduce and call forward Olivier Chassot. Olivier Chassot is the Chief Operating Officer of Shellcatch Incorporated, and he's also a candidate for the chair of the World Commission on Protected Areas. Welcome. And I'd like to invite Thomas Binet. Thomas is the Blue Seeds founder and director. And I'm going to start with Madhu. Does this not work? It does. I'm going to start with Madhu just for her kind of, maybe she can further introduce herself and any work she's done related to this topic, any reflections she has on the report and how we might use it going forward. Thanks, Madhu.
Thanks, Charles. Hi, everyone. I'm Madhu Rao, and I'm with the Wildlife Conservation Society. As Charles knows, I'm an ecologist by training, but I know the importance of financing. With WCS, I've had good experience with the financing element for protected areas in Asia. And WCS as an organization has done quite a bit to try and develop sustainable financing mechanisms for protected areas in Asia. As an example, before Myanmar went down under, a few years back, we developed a country level report on opportunities for sustainable financing of Myanmar's protected area system. So I think, Charles, if I'm allowed to say a few things about your results, I think they're fantastic. I think they are spot on in terms of the capacity needs and the needs for financing of protected areas. I mean, I think the only observation I'd like to make is there is probably an opportunity to sort of step back, just one step back in terms of these are capacity needs for protected area managers. And you know, these are the skills that are needed. But I wonder to what extent we want to step back and really take a bit of a bird's eye view of country level financing for protected areas, and really understand what are the opportunities at the country level to enhance the volume of financing going towards protected areas. And then sort of look at the capacity element, because I think very often many countries have financing for protected areas. They just, I mean, it's the allocation that's the problem. I know countries like India have very, very significant and healthy amounts of financing for protected areas, and their capacity needs are going to be very different. So as a first point, I think we've got to step back and actually look at countries' overall funding for natural resource management within their country, within their own countries. I found it really interesting in your table where it says, in the last line, it says, everybody thought it was very, very important to build capacity to access international donor financing. I think that should be a second step. I mean, I think we've got to look at sustainable financing mechanisms within countries before doing that. But I have other points that I'd like to make, but over to Olivier.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Charles and Madhu and Thomas. It's a pleasure being here, and congratulations on the launch of the report. I think it really focuses on some of the most important aspects. And I'd like to focus a little bit from my own perspective from Latin America. I am from Costa Rica, and I've been working in protected areas and biological corridors for the last 15, 20 years, especially at the regional level with the Latin American School for Protected Areas. So most of my vision comes from that reading of the report and thinking about Latin America and the Caribbean to some extent. And what strikes me is that we don't really know how much we invest in our protected area system, and we don't know how much the gap is, how big the gap is sometimes. So having the view from people all over the world working in finance is a great input to this discussion. And when there is a difference between the region, there's also many differences between many countries within one region. I can compare Colombia to Mexico, to Bolivia, to Brazil, or to some countries in the Caribbean. And we have a huge difference in the way we manage protected areas, in the way we work with surrounding communities, and what our needs are in terms of management and strengthening our national systems. And I was amazed to see the two main issues that Latin America reported. The first one was a need in increasing funding for protected areas, but less so the urgency to reduce pressures on protected areas. Maybe some of us think that all the solutions are in the funding and the money, but I think it goes much beyond this. This is about capacity building. This is about our own capacity to use those funding and channel them and make conservation effective, not only in protected areas, but also working with other measures of conservation, such as indigenous territories, local communities, working everywhere. So when I think about channeling funding for protected areas, I have a much wider vision, which includes seeing the mechanisms to effectively channel those funding sources to people that work outside of protected areas, in areas that are as much important as the very core of those national parks in some aspects, of course. And 2 years ago, we had this amazing congress that Alan Valverde organized with our colleagues from South America. And this was the Latin American and Caribbean Congress on Protected Areas. We gathered more than 3,500 people, and we issued a declaration, the Declaration of Lima, that you can easily find online. And you will see that some of the recommendation is a call to find more financial mechanisms, such as the compensation or the payment for environmental services, and also the financial sustainability. And I think that we need to find innovative tools, and some of them are in the report. We have a few leads about how to find those different mechanisms and apply funding to protected areas. And I have any other points, but maybe I'll pass the micro to Thomas, and we can have another one, right?
Thank you, Olivier. Thomas, go ahead. Yeah.
Hello, everybody. And so first of all, congratulations for the launch and the quality of the report. I have the chance to read 2 days ago as a draft version. So congratulations to that. I'm very enthusiastic about this piece of work because first of all, this gives more flesh, more information on the needs for protected area finance for what practitioner is from the field, on the field. And this is very, very interesting for us. And why is it interesting for us specifically? Because Blue Seeds, we aim to tackle financing gap in marine conservation. That's our main objective. And for this, we believe capacity for protected area managers is key to bridge the financing gap. And that's why I think it's very good work, because it helps people like us to deliver more focused, more targeted work when we are going on the field working with managers. And I'm even more enthusiastic about this because the survey is going our direction, so it's even better. The kind of piece of work like best practices, the guidelines, the training, webinars, the kind of some piece like tools that we are developing on the field. We are doing this, and apparently it's a need that comes up from the region where we work in the Med, but also in other regions. So well done, and congratulations for that. Maybe we'll go back to the content, but I had a comment also like Olivier. I was quite surprised to see the figures about trade-off for people between reducing pressure or increasing finance. And maybe you can give some more clarity, because I guess it was the question that was asked. But I was wondering, because to me, reducing pressure was part of the primary objective of protected areas, whereas financing is more like a means to deliver those conservation objectives. So I'd be very happy to learn about like how you comment these results. How do you explain the such great difference among continents and places where I don't know, but maybe you can give more insight on this.
Okay, thank you, Tomas. Well, I'll just respond to that last question. I think a lot of the pressures that people were considering in their mind when they think about reducing pressures, a lot of those were coming from outside the protected area, and I think maybe they feel that finance isn't going to actually help with that. They have little control over a lot of those pressures. So I think that's the short answer. And so in Africa, you saw that was the highest. They thought we need to reduce pressures. We have all these pressures coming in. It's development pressure. It's water. It's climate change. It's things that maybe are beyond their. A lot of them are beyond their control. Some are within their control. And for some of those, and we note in the report, for some of those, finance actually can help. So there is a linkage between the two. It's not like they're completely decoupled, but we were just curious, which was more important for people. I don't know if that helps, David.
Yeah, I just want to add that, and I'll try to speak loud. So, what are the what's driving costs in protected areas? So you have your budget, right? Why is your budget the budget that you think it is? The answer is because of pressure, because of the pressures on the protected area. So you have two options. One is you have a huge budget because you have a lot of pressure. Then you have to raise a lot of money, right, to fill that gap. Or you could strategically identify pressures that you could try to reduce. And in many cases, it's a lot cheaper to reduce those pressures and easier than it is to raise the money to fill that gap. And so that's what this question speaks to, is that looking at it from both sides of the coin. So it's not just how do we get more money, but it's like, what's driving that money, that cost to begin with, and can we lower that driver of cost? It's tied to sort of cost efficiencies. Yeah.
Thanks, David. Let me just pause here, see if there's any other questions from the audience or reflections. So I saw Pierre's hand first, but then.
Yes, thank you, Charles. And well, again, congratulations for the launch of this report that will be useful to all of us, certainly. I had a comment on the results of the study that was conducted, which I think is louder, okay, which I think is maybe partly at least answering this issue of the allocation of funding beyond like budgets that sometimes are here, but that are not properly allocated. One of the figure I found very interesting is that still, which is a reality that we observed in the Med, a lot of the expectations and priorities are put on management plans, because when thinking of allocating money on the needs, this whole story starts from knowing what management measures should be taken to address the pressures. So I think it explains also probably a little bit this feeling that was reflected on the question on the adequacy of budget, because I think that probably the issue of the allocation comes at least partly, it's not the only thing, of course, yeah, but from the fact that a lot of PAs and MPAs, well, I'm talking more particularly about what I know a little more, which are MPAs in the Mediterranean, do not have a very clear idea of what are their management needs still. I will not draw any figures because we have this ongoing update of the status report on Mediterranean MPAs that we release every 4 years together with the SPARAC that will be out soon. But still a large share of MPAs do not have a management plan that is at least fully or sufficiently implemented. So from this, it's difficult then to think of like designing a business plan, for example, and then at a higher level to assess what are the needs. So it's of course not the all of the story, but it's part of it, I reckon. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to pass the microphone in the back here, and just unless you want to, yeah, come forward would be great. But while you're coming forward, I just want to reflect on that. So I think there are a number of things that you've identified. You need a management plan before you do a business plan. I couldn't agree more. Madhu mentioned that there's a need for a thorough analysis for looking at country level financing. Maybe before we start doing a significant amount of capacity building, I think that makes sense as well. So there's a number of prerequisites, and it's a much wider picture. This report was really focusing at the micro level. What are the specific needs for training? But there is a much wider context, which the Protected Area Finance Working Group is also considering and working within. But this is just one kind of piece at the bottom. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much for giving me that chance. And firstly, I have to congratulate you for the launch of the report, which seems to be very interesting and with very interesting results. Because I'm coming from the area where you only had just 1 or 2 questionnaires, which is the Middle East. I'm coming from Egypt, and I'm working with protected areas and nature protection, nature protection. So that's why this is my first question, was how to bring us in the process, and if you are going to have another round of the survey, because I can see that it's not completed, or maybe you need to do another survey, or let's say it the other way, or how to bring that area or those countries that in the area like Egypt, for instance, how to bring Egypt in with you in the process. And of course, I'm not going to comment because finance and the financial aspects of the protected areas and of the conservation is always being a challenge, one of the biggest challenges for people who are working on conservation and nature protection. And what we will need is how to reach a financial sustainability of the protected areas, how to do the balance between the expenses or the cost and the benefits that you can get from the protected areas. Of course, we can do it, but we are lacking the skills, we're lacking the capacities. So I'm wondering also how are you going to support? Can you do, or how can you support all the protected areas in Africa, in the Middle East, to overcome these challenges? And me as one of the senior staff in Egypt or in the Ministry of Environment, I'm ready to be in, and I'm asking you how to bring me in. Thank you.
Thank you. You're most welcome in. That's a really tough question. You know, so many organizations are working on that, you know, trying to raise the finance itself. This report focused on finance capacity, on the ability for protected area practitioners to engage in finance, to raise money, to spend it, to have business plans, etc. Of course, we all would like, you know, we're all signing petitions, and we're, you know, the Lima Declaration that Olivier mentioned. These are constant words that we're hearing through the UN, through IUCN to raise the amount of finance. No, you can't hear. Or you can't hear. Yeah, try a different microphone. Some of the batteries are failing. I don't know if anyone else has a comment on that.
I can just respond to that. Thanks. I mean, I think I wanted to respond to your request for, you know, how do we build capacity in countries like Egypt? I think, I mean, building capacity is, from what I have experienced, it's actually no one size fits all, as Olivier also said, that I think it's going to have to take different levels of engagement. But one suggestion that has been made is some sort of an open access platform which has tools that are easily accessible to protected area managers, that can be, you know, accessed by any protected area manager at a site anywhere in the world. If we can build those types of open access platforms, that could be one way of increasing accessibility of existing tools for financing.
Yeah, thanks, Madhu. And I'd also, can you hear me now? Yeah, okay, good. So the question was, how do we engage with more people in Egypt? And so it was difficult, and because I think that the networks that we were working through didn't have strong connections in Egypt. So if we want to work stronger in every country in the world, or where there's greatest need, we certainly need to expand the network of people working on this. And, you know, I worked mainly through IUCN World Commission on Protected Areas, and perhaps there was also a language barrier. So, you know, we were creating this in English. I was sending out the request in English. And so that may have been a significant barrier right there. Nope. Well, we're going to talk, okay? Does anyone else have any comments on that question?
I think time is flying, right?
Yes, it is.
But I just wanted to speak a little bit about the next steps and the partnerships, and maybe the road to Kunming, the very narrow road now, and the post-2020 framework. I think it's not a matter of quantity, but a matter of quality in terms of capacity building, training, and the funding we need to make effective conservation in the ground, working with communities, indigenous communities, local communities, stakeholders in general, governments, and their different levels. And money alone will not solve this issue, of course. We all agree on that. And I like the holistic approach on conservation finance that Charles, David, and their co-authors, including Madhu, are proposing. I think this is the way to go forward. There are many partnerships that we can build on this first valuable efforts. And in general, I guess mainstreaming the channeling of funding through bilateral donors, NGOs, private banks to ensure more effective implementation of projects is one thing. But then capacity building, I have a vision of more South-South cooperation, Africa, Latin America, and Asia on one side, and of course, North-South cooperation. We have so much to learn from each other, but it's not a one-size-fits-all solution coming from money from developing countries towards countries in development. IUCN has already systematized more than 950 solutions through Panorama. So there's a lot of lessons learned. There's a lot of model to follow in how to apply the funding to make conservation much more effective. The WCPA has a capacity building initiative with many people working on that for many years. And there's room for a lot of partnerships. So I'll keep to this, I guess. And I also wanted to congratulate Blue Seeds and all the efforts and encourage you to keep on the good work and try to integrate all the countries from North Africa and even thinking about the Black Sea, which has a strong impact on the Mediterranean.
Yeah, thank you. I want to go back to your last question, Charles. What do we do with this, basically, if I understood it correctly? And I think it's a good piece of work, giving a lot of information. But now my question is, how do we get, how we progress with this? Where do we go with this? And to be more precise, I would say like, how do we deliver better capacity building? And there are some tools, as you mentioned, through WCPA and other tools. But basically, we know where we want to go, and we now need to discuss, work as a partnership globally, because I think globally, well, at a regional scale, I don't see any major difference in what are the needs. Basically, some of the outputs are different, but I would say this, we are going the same directions, same route. So about how to deliver better capacity building, we have tried and developed some assistance program. So like standing, going beyond the capacity, mobilizing the tools like guides, toolkits, best practice guides, training, webinars, all the tools that also the COVID has learned us to use. But we want to go further, trying to stand on the, for managers to stand on our shoulders, giving more like assistance program where we want to mobilize those tools and go a little bit beyond, like providing the legal expertise to go on the visitors fee, or providing the Excel training. It is maybe simple, but it's a basic. If you don't have it, you can do a business planning. So those are the expectation I would have, and how to go further with this, work as a team, and I would be happy to work and collaborate on this with my Blue Seeds team.
Thank you, Thomas. Fantastic. Your point about Excel training reminded me of a discussion I was having with Guillaume here from Blue Seeds. Yeah, because there's some protected areas, and the practitioners working there, the capacity is so low that to talk about business planning is kind of way beyond what they can do. They lack the ability to use Excel. So that's where the capacity building needs to start in many places. So there's a wide range of needs out there, depending on the region you're in. And I want to pass the microphone to Zoltan, but I also wanted to say that, so in the Mediterranean, you probably have a very good understanding of what the capacity needs are, because you're working around here, and the delivery that you have is of a certain type. You're using certain tools. Other regions have different needs, and what's being delivered there is very likely being done differently. So there is no standards for how this is delivered. And I think there's probably some things that are being learned which aren't shared well across regions. So, you know, perhaps that's one reason why a global initiative with some kind of framework or standards that could then be rolled out could be useful. And to develop that would be a great exercise, because there would be so much learning involved by bringing those regions together. Okay, but anyway, Zoltan.
Oh, yeah, thanks.
Can you identify yourself, please?
Yeah, okay. My name is Zoltan Kuhn, WCPA member and one of the candidates for the regional vice chair position. So what to do with the report? I guess you well thought who is the target audience of the report, but one of the target audience is those who are managing the protected area systems, like governments. They should know what's the need in their protected areas, and they have to be informed about the outcome of the report. The second point, what I would do, especially because I'm coming from Europe and the European results are very, very interesting, repeat maybe the exercise on a regional scale, and then try to find out why this European stuff came out so interestingly, especially that we can now use your experience with the methodology, so same method or maybe modifying where you want, but try to repeat it to get a more precise result for the region. Because, and now this is only a guess, based on the European result, I think that the available financing in Europe, the money probably is enough, but it's not for the right tasks for the parks. That's why they would like to get more management planning or better management planning. One example is from the country where I came from, where in one particular park, the government invests 30 billion Hungarian forint in the tourism investment, while the budget of the park is 1.5 million. So this 30 billion, once the tourism investment is built, will increase the pressure on the park, so will increase the funding need for the management. So it's going to create a vicious circle. Rather than investing the tourism investment somewhere outside and keep the park relatively untouched, but only as an attraction. So I think that would be kind of interesting stuff in Europe.
Thank you, Zoltan. You want to pass the microphone right to your, yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much for your study. That's very interesting results. I would like to ask, do you see a role in tertiary education, like the universities, and how the outcomes of your study could be transferred to university training programs to be able to provide these skills to the graduates of today? So maybe give out some key pointers and guidance for the implementation into the key programs that we know from which, at least in Europe, protected area managers are being sourced from.
The answer is absolutely. I'll let Thomas respond on this as well. And maybe Olivier, through your work with the protected area school. So, and I'm also affiliated with a university. And so this is often a topic that I'll touch on when I'm teaching a course, whether online or in person. So I see a very strong role, absolutely, for tertiary education.
I think you bring up the most important point. I was going to make it, which is institutionalization of the capacity building, because I think we can come and go and build capacity, but really important to build local capacity in local institutions to provide the training. And I think it's important to work right from the very beginning with training the trainers in local institutions. So I've done that in Lao PDR, where we worked with the National University of Lao to train the trainers to teach modules. And I think that's the route to sustainability of capacity building. I think it's a very important.
Yeah, very, very good question. I think there are I think training of people on the field directly, the manager themselves is very important. And that's we all have in mind, but thanks for asking this question which raised the point of what do we do later, like in 10 years when people will get out of school, etc. And I just wanted to give an example because Guillaume here and some people from my team, we have a partnership with MARES, which is a master combining business school and marine ecology. And basically we are developing a whole program there targeting marine protected area finance and business skills, entrepreneurship, and how to apply this to marine conservation. And I think it's one of the first of this kind and basically it's really a primary, and we are just delivering this year. But definitely we see that there is a lot of traction, a lot of interest from students in business school, because they don't want to work in big companies doing a lot of negative impact, but they'd rather enter into the marine conservation world with their business tools. And we need those kind of people for tomorrow to be the managers, being double trained in marine ecology or ecology, biology, and also in how to manage an institution, because MPA, we need entrepreneurial skills. We need a lot of business skills in order to manage an MPA well with effectiveness. So I really support this kind of process, and I think the work done by the CFO, by Charles and colleagues, is very going the right direction towards this. So
Thanks, Tomas. I've been given the 2-minute warning about 30 seconds ago. So, but just a real quick question for the two candidates for chair of WCPA. How do you see WCPA interacting with this, kind of in the short term or the longer term? But very quickly, if you could.
Excellent question, and the good one. First of all, if elected, I will reestablish the protected area finance specialist group, and I hope to work with the best experts in the world. So hopefully Charles will be on the team. And regardless of that issue, I think that a very strong partnership between the Commission and the Conservation Finance Alliance is key. It's been going on for many years, but there's much more we can do together. And we really need to combine those efforts, and including work with vice regional chairs that can really channel the needs from the countries and the region. As we've seen, they're quite different. They have different expectations, different needs, and there are many different ways in which we can make their efforts more effective in the ground. Thank you.
Thank you, Olivier. Madhu.
Yeah, I think very similar. I think the Commission needs a specialist group focused entirely on financing, sustainable financing for protected areas. So I'm very much with Olivier on that. I think we need to be better aligned within the Commission. So I would say we need to be aligned with the Capacity Development Initiative, and they're just looking into their own strategy development. So I would put financing into that, into their strategy front and center. So because at the country level, protected area managers are being hammered by so many different opportunities for capacity building, from biofin, so we've got to get aligned. So I would say we would work within the Commission with the Capacity Development Initiative to prioritize protected area financing, building capacity for finance.
Thank you so much, Madhu. Thank you, Madhu. Thank you, Olivier. Thank you, Tomas. Thanks to everyone in the audience. If you didn't get a chance to ask a question, please find us here, and let's give the panelists a round of applause.